Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Phil Gerbishak again. Hey, and today we're going to talk about LinkedIn advertising, something that's really important to a lot of people. I love LinkedIn, and so I thought rather than me just talking about LinkedIn advertising, I'd bring on the guy that knows and probably has forgotten more than anybody I know, AJ Wilcox at B2 Linked. AJ, what's up, man?
Dude, I'm so excited to be here, Phil.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here, buddy. So you're the guy for LinkedIn advertising. So first, one of the cool things that's changed is the whole retargeting so that it's more Facebook-like. So what is actually going on here, AJ?
Well, so just talking about LinkedIn's retargeting, the really big thing that's happening just hasn't happened yet, but LinkedIn's coming out with event-based retargeting, similar to what Facebook has. So as of right now, if you create a video ad, you're going to pay 6 to 14 cents, most likely, to get someone to watch at least 2 seconds of your video. And then you can do absolutely nothing with it. If they don't go to your landing page, you can't track them, you can't retarget them. They're just kind of, you showed video for the fun of it. But herein, what I would imagine is probably the next quarter or two, LinkedIn will give us event-based retargeting. So we can say something like, if you've watched at least 50% of my video, then I want to show you the next one in the sequence, or then I want to show you just the second half, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And this is getting really exciting. LinkedIn also announced this week, really quietly, might I add, that they acquired a new company called Drawbridge.com. And as part of that, Drawbridge has technology of identifying users, of stringing them together by their across devices. So if someone visits my ad from a mobile device, if LinkedIn completes this integration, I can retarget that same person when they're there on desktop and then when they hop on their tablet. So this all of a sudden gets really powerful with the retargeting. We're going to get a lot closer to where Facebook is.
Ooh, that's cool. I think that's so important. I think from a small business perspective, if we're going to invest $100, $1,000 in an ad, we really want to be more granular instead of just, shooting in the wind. And so this really helps. This Drawbridge integration is really going to be big. That's almost as good as HubSpot does for matching websites, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, and there are a couple other things. I've never used Drawbridge, so I'm not quite sure, but just perusing their website, it looks like they have abilities to do like lead attribution. And so we might be able to thread together some things that are in the CRM. So all of a sudden, LinkedIn's not just saying, here's your cost per conversion. They're saying, here's your cost per MQL or SQL or cost per proposal or cost per close. That gets exciting. Also, the ability to get off of LinkedIn, because we know that the average user only logs into LinkedIn 3 or 4 times a month. And so if you're trying to either target them or retarget them, that's not a lot of shots on goal that you get on people. But with Drawbridge, they have access to DSPs, which are like Google DoubleClick or whatever it's now called. Pretty much all the programmatic inventory across the web. So now you can use LinkedIn's targeting, not now, but when the integration's done, you can use LinkedIn's targeting to show ads across the entire web. So that one gets pretty exciting too.
Wow. Well, and one of the things I think a lot of people forget is that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft and Microsoft owns Bing. So this gives us an opportunity now to do some Bing integration. Now we know that, let's be clear, right? Google owns the search market for now, and maybe not forever, because their Justice Department's investigating them. We've got some interesting stuff. They might have to break them up like the Beatles. I mean, hopefully Yoko Ono doesn't come in though, because I got to tell you, if Yoko gets involved, it's all over but the crying, AJ.
I love it.
Right? So what's this Bing integration? What does this mean from a practical perspective for folks? Because we're only looking at 10 to 15% of traffic anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Microsoft will oftentimes claim somewhere between 10 to 30% of traffic volume. But if you're a heavy Google advertiser and a Microsoft advertiser, it probably looks closer to 10% when you're actually looking at, share across your market. What was so cool is after Microsoft announced that they had purchased LinkedIn, we went into this year and a half hiatus of what are they doing behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden, both sides started releasing little bits of little nuggets here and there. So Microsoft acted first, and they said, we have integrated 3 of LinkedIn's targeting facets that now you can target on Microsoft ads. Used to be called Bing ads. So there's one version of it that's in closed beta and one that's in open. So essentially you have to have a Bing advertising rep to get access to this, but it's available right now. You can go and create a campaign on Bing that says, if someone is either in this department, or if they are in this industry, or if they are at this company name, either of the three of those or in any combination, you can say they have to look like this professionally, and then as soon as one of them types one of these keywords, show them ads on Bing. And obviously we know LinkedIn's audience data is probably a pretty small subset of the general market. And then we know that Bing search is also a pretty small subset. So when you put those two together, you might not get a whole lot of data. You might not get a whole lot of traffic. For us, we've probably got, I don't know, I'm spending about $2 per click when I'm testing this out. So it's certainly cheaper than LinkedIn's original $6 to $9 per click. But it's probably only spent $300 or $400, but that's okay. That's kind of the beginning. What's in closed beta right now that is a little bit more exciting, it's almost just like LinkedIn, where you don't have to rely on them to type a keyword. You're just targeting that user as long as they fit either that department, that company name, or industry, across anywhere that Microsoft has them identified. The Microsoft Audience Network right now is like the Microsoft homepage, MSN, Skype, Outlook, all of those kind of properties. And then we also know that Microsoft just announced a partnership with the Oath Network, which includes Huffington Post, Verizon, AOL, a whole bunch of other sites. So we don't know if our ads are going to be able to be pushed there yet, but I'm getting really excited because that's what we want is more inventory.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. I would also say it's going to be interesting as we see Microsoft takes their identity management through Office 365 and takes that up into LinkedIn, because that's the one thing, that's the thing that's missing, right? Because that will then flip the game from being 10 to 15% to now, what, 70% of organizations have Microsoft Exchange or something like that?
Yeah, that's true. That's a big deal. And I'm sure that was one of the biggest impetuses for Microsoft buying LinkedIn, because from LinkedIn's perspective, I was like, wait, why did you want Microsoft to buy you? And then after I heard Microsoft's announcement, basically sharing what you just shared, it was like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. Not only that, but if we think about, again, LinkedIn's revenue, remember, folks, comes from recruiting. The
60%.
reason that 60% of revenue comes from recruiting. So we think about that. The goal is to get more executives on the platform, because if you think about a recruiter, they get paid 20 to 30% of the base pay for an executive if they headhunt them and they place them somewhere. So 30% of $1 million, obviously more than 30% of $10, which is what I get paid a year. So, so that's important. It's important we say that, right? That $3 is not enough to really run a LinkedIn ad. But AJ, let's talk about LinkedIn ads, right? Because the thing is, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of bad information about LinkedIn ads, like they're super expensive, or that you should only do it if you're advertising a Lamborghini or something that expensive, or stuff like that. So tell us the truth, AJ. What are some of the types and costs of LinkedIn ads that you're seeing in general?
Yeah, so I think you have a really good point. LinkedIn ads are more expensive than other networks. On average, we're paying $6 to $9 a click on LinkedIn, where you might be paying $1 to $2 per click on Facebook for something with near equivalency. So immediately that scares advertisers away, because they look at it and let's say they're advertising on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and they're getting an $8 cost per conversion on Facebook and then a $35 on LinkedIn. They go, oop, LinkedIn's 3, 4, 5 times more expensive. Let's jump off of here. But if you keep tracking these leads through your CRM, through the rest of the funnel, what you'll notice is that LinkedIn's leads are of much higher quality. And what I attribute that to is two things. Number one, Facebook's targeting around B2B is really fuzzy. It's either, you're targeting interest, you're targeting lookalikes, you're not being specific about who you want to target because Facebook won't let you. They just don't have that data. So you're going to get one person that looks really good, and then a group of 5 other people that are kind of close, not quite the right market. Then you also have, when someone's on Facebook, they're in the wrong mindset. You don't know what they're doing, whether they're on their way to play Farmville or on their way to look at pictures of grandkids, or, maybe they are there for work, but you don't know. On LinkedIn, we have super tight control over who someone is, so we can make sure that they are the exact right fit, and we know that they're there for a business purpose.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we say that, because though it is more expensive, we now can pick the exact right person. And that's a big deal, because frankly, people put as their job title on LinkedIn, Master of the Universe, or, maybe if they're a Metallica fan, Master of Puppets, whatever it is, right? And that's not helpful, because I'm not targeting that. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't, because I don't believe it. So LinkedIn now gives us a much tighter control on that. But let's talk about one of my favorite LinkedIn ads, and that is the sponsored in-mail. That is the least expensive and I think the most effective ad on LinkedIn for the small to mid-sized business, because we can target a position or a function in the organization. What are you seeing with those, AJ?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you bring this one up, because sponsored in-mail is the hardest ad format to get right by far. The reason why is because this really does come across like an email. And so if you can imagine, as the recipient of this email, there are certain kinds of email that you get excited about and you say, this is a great opportunity. And then there are certain emails that you get that you go, spam, and you throw it in the box. And so the real crux of using this ad format effectively is make sure that whatever the offer is that you're giving feels like a personal invitation. Because if it just feels like spam email, it'll get ignored. And having your sponsored email get ignored is the worst thing that could happen, because you didn't pay only when someone clicked on it like the other ad formats that LinkedIn has. You paid to send it to them in the first place. So you need them to take action at a high rate to keep your costs down.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we ran an ad last week for one of my clients. We put up $125. We got 150,000 impressions though, for $125.
Okay, let me do the math here on this one real fast, because I know.
10 cents.
Okay, so
my math is off there, but it was like 10 cents per impression on the math.
And an impression, when you do sponsored in-mail, that's a send. So that is that. I thought the floor was somewhere around 25 cents or 35 cents, somewhere in there. Like that was the lowest.
Yeah, we set it at 20, but we got more.
Ah, that's cool. Okay, I like it.
Yeah, which is almost never happening. And that math might be wrong. So it might be, I might have one decimal off there, but nonetheless, it was about 10 cents an impression, which says to me, right? So again, for a first send, I was really happy with that. Now the challenge with that is now we know that we have the right audience. Now we just got to tune up the message. So talk to us about, sponsored in-mail, even regular in-mail, right? Some of the keys to that, AJ, that you've seen make those successful.
Yeah, so usually with your ads, you're asking someone to click on an ad, and then you send them to your landing page. And so from the first, you have a click-through, sorry, the first two layers of that funnel, you have a click-through rate to tell you how interesting your ads are. And then from the landing page to conversion, you have a conversion rate to tell you how good of an offer it was. And so those are your two steps. With sponsored in-mail or any kind of in-mail, they're adding a third step. So what you have is someone has to open it first, then you're asking them to click on it, and then you're asking them to convert. So just realize that you have an extra step in this funnel, and the piece that you have to watch for that first step is the open rate. So on LinkedIn with sponsored in-mail, you're going to pay per person that you send it to. So it'll be, in your case, 10 cents per person you send it to. Maybe most are probably averaging 35 to 55 cents. So you're going to pay that much to send it, and then 50% of people will open it. And that's just average. You can get that average up by making the subject line sound really juicy. So if you're not getting an above a 50% open rate, check your subject line. Make sure it draws you in and is punchy. Then what you have is the copy of the message itself. If it has lower than a 3% conversion rate, a 3% click-through rate, it probably needs to be improved. So play with that copy. See if you can get it 4%, 7%, anywhere higher. And then you've got something that will get people to that landing page. Then you've got your conversion rate. Yeah,
so headline first, get it opened. Second, copy. And then that strong call to action that is compelling to get a click.
Exactly.
3 pieces there. Good stuff. Good stuff. So AJ, we're getting, we both got other stuff to do today. So give me one more LinkedIn ad format and tip that we can use today to advertise our business?
Well, ad format. Okay, let's start with ad format, and then I'll go to tip, because there's some cool new targeting that came out that everyone should know about. The ad format that I think everyone should start with is called sponsored content, and it's the one that shows up right in the news feed, and it's the most versatile of all the ad formats. This can come as just a single like a large image. It can come as a carousel ad, if you've seen those on Facebook, similar, and then video ad. So, and you can also attach a lead generation form to them, so you can skip the landing page entirely and have someone convert right within LinkedIn. So I love this ad format. It's not the most expensive, it's not the least expensive, it's not the most engagement or the least engagement. It's kind of right in the middle. It's a nice sweet spot.
Can you do video with that, AJ?
You can, absolutely. Yeah, like we mentioned kind of here at the beginning, until we have event-based retargeting, I don't recommend video ads just because they're kind of a waste and they're a little bit expensive. But certainly in the future, when we have that, I will recommend video all day long.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
So do you mind if I launch into the new targeting? Okay, so LinkedIn came out with interest targeting, and this kind of plays into what we were talking about a little bit with the Microsoft acquisition, because while Bing is trying to figure out how do we use LinkedIn's data for targeting, LinkedIn said, hey, how can we use Bing's search data to understand what people are interested in and what they're looking for to give them more of that intent charged kind of audience. So LinkedIn is using their own data to understand what people are interested in by things like what are they liking and commenting on and what are they sharing in the feed. But then they're also borrowing from Bing's data set and saying, hey, if you've been searching for CRM software, we're going to call you an interested party in CRM right now. So that's pretty cool. And then they came out with something that's kind of adjacent to that type of targeting as well, and they call it audience templates. It's not a great name, but it's essentially these common buckets that some of their other advertisers have looked for. And LinkedIn goes, oh, yeah, we can identify who those users are. Let's create a bucket for you. So it's something like, if you want to target people who have a bachelor's degree but don't yet have a master's or higher, there's a bucket for that. You can say, I just want people with bachelor's degrees. If you want to target people who are just event planners or just, let's see, here's another example here, just nurses. All of these kind of common buckets. So be aware that's here, and they're going to keep coming out with new ones of them, both with interests and audience templates. Just go check them out. Go look and see what's available, because it's kind of like a yard sale. You pop in there, take a look around, and there's not a whole lot of organization. You just kind of look to see what LinkedIn has for you that might be applicable.
Cool. So I'm looking for some Z Cavaricci jeans and a 40-30. Have you seen any of those on sale yet, AJ?
None of those, but they do have a Game Boy from 1990.
Excellent, excellent. So can't flash all the way back to 89, but we can get to 1990 with that.
That's right.
The Game Boy, the precursor to the new systems that none of us are young enough to play anymore, right?
That's right.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, AJ, I appreciate you being here as always, buddy. So where do people find more of you? And do you have a resource for more on LinkedIn ads that they can get?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow me on LinkedIn, pretty much every new development, I'm sharing it out. So if you want to follow me for news, that's great. If you go to b2linked.com, that's my site. And again, my dirty little secret is if you fill out the form on the site, you don't go to a sales rep and you don't go to my newsletter or marketing automation workflow. You just go right to my inbox, and I don't sell. So ask me anything.
There you go. Yeah. So b2linked.com is the site. This is my buddy AJ Wilcox talking LinkedIn ads, folks. And if you're thinking about getting started, go get his dirty little secret, which is his LinkedIn ads cheat sheet. I use it with my clients. It's that good. And then when they get too big for me, then I always give them to AJ because he's the best. I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much for being here, dude.
Absolutely. Excited to be here. Thanks.
Thanks.